paintings come from the heart and they come from emotions and your lived experience. And so putting all of that onto a canvas, onto a piece of paper, it's a hard process, but it's so rewarding because you get to share like the way you think and the way you view the world and your feelings with everyone else.
Hello, and welcome to The Perch, where we highlight authentic voices, expert insights, and meaningful conversation. The Perch brings the Kinkaid School's mission to life through stories of education, leadership, and community. Let's get started. Welcome back to The Perch. I'm Mike Maury, and in today's podcast, we're exploring how Kinkaid nurtures student creativity, the kind that inspires confidence and imagination beyond the stage or studio. Joining us is Mr. Scott Lambert, the Director of Visual and Performing Arts at Kinkaid. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Always good to be with another artist, Mike.
We're also joined by two of our talented Falcon artists from the class of 2026. Z Ostrowski. Z, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And we also have Maureen Min. Hi, Maureen. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Scott, let's start with the big picture. How has your vision for the arts at Kinkaid evolved over the years? And maybe what are some of the key drivers you've put in place to help our students discover their creative voice?
Yeah, one of the first things we did when I took over this job was I got my faculty together to create a guiding principle for the arts. The question was, what can serve as our North Star so that anytime we had a question about anything, we'd know what we were doing, why we were doing, and for the same ideas, like what we shouldn't be doing if it didn't fit into that. And so we created a guiding principle. It says, Kinkaid Arts provides comprehensive arts experience and instruction through a student-centered curriculum that fosters collaboration, creativity, and problem solving. Through our energy, focus, and master teachers, we provide artists and audiences an opportunity to learn more about both themselves and others. And so that really does serve as our North Star.
When I think of arts at Kinkaid, I certainly think of creativity, but collaboration. See, what about you? Collaboration and how that plays off of individual performance or your individual art. How do those two mix together?
I think that collaboration is probably the most important part of an art. Actually, you would think that like the big performances, or even in like a visual art, even though it's a more solo activity, there's so much like bonding and so much collaboration. Like you can ask your friends for feedback, or you can ask your friends like, "What color should I make this?" Or even like one of my favorite memories from being a visual artist is last year, all the like honors kids would have to come work during lunch, and our teacher, Miss McMillan, she would always play connections. And even though like this wasn't part of art, like she would make us do the connections with her, but like it bonded us as artists, and I think it really helped make the artistic process more enjoyable to have a like-minded kind of group of people to support you and be around you while you create.
If I could just add one thing, when you think about an orchestra, it's really a team. It's so rooted in collaboration. Um, the piece and the performance can only happen when everybody else is all in together to make it sound as whole and beautiful as it can be.
I'm going to jump in too and just talk about some of the other art forms and how collaboration I think is so important in all of them. Um, our creative writing program is all about peer reviews. So they are constantly working together to workshop pieces together. Our film program couldn't exist without collaboration. You have to have a director, you have to have a cinematographer, you have to have an editor. The yearbook and journalism do exactly the same thing. So I really do think that collaboration is something that spans all 6 of our disciplines in the arts.
Z and Maureen, I know you each have some specialties within the arts. Could you each tell us a little bit more about the individual part of collaboration?
So we talked about orchestra being a team and collaborating, but that team doesn't work unless everybody practices on their own and improves independently. I think what's really special about orchestra is that even though we're playing these orchestral pieces as a team, we still learn from each other and get better with our individual pieces and our individual concertos and excerpts.
So at Kinkaid, we have an honors visual arts program where like you are in an arts class. It's just like work you have to do outside of the class in order to get like a bump on your GPA and have an exhibit and stuff. And it's a very tough program just because it's a lot of time. Like you have to have at least 20 hours in the studio, but not in class working. And you have to have 5 extra pieces, which are a lot of pieces considering you're already doing a ton in class. Like you have to do competitions, but there's a lot of, like, shared knowledge within the honors community. So as of right now, in specifically drawing and painting, because that's what I'm in right now, I am the longest honors artist there. So, like, having done this since I was a sophomore, I know a lot of, like, the tricks, and I know what you really need to focus on when you're doing an honors project. So, I I will always talk to, like, my other senior classmates or my underclassmen, like, "Oh, you need to have a schedule. You need to have this many pieces done. You need to, like this is how your theme needs to, like, kinda be worded in order to work correctly." There's a lot of, you can help other people who aren't in the same level as you because there's drawing and painting students level 2 through advanced, and so, like, there's so many things you can help but also learn from each other.
Scott, you had mentioned the guiding principle for the visual and performing arts. What happens underneath that we don't see?
Well, I'll point out the second sentence of that guiding principle that talks about our desire to educate both artists and audiences about themselves and others. Because really, what we're doing there, what we're really talking about is empathy training, right? And what that means is that in the arts, you must bring yourself to the piece. That's the most important part. It's obvious how that happens in theater, right? So you play a character, you inhabit the body and the soul of this character, and you bring it to life. So you learn about that person. You can't learn about that person unless you bring some of yourself to it. But we're teaching students and audiences, it is about both of them, to really do some of that self-discovery themselves and to think about how do they learn about themselves and how in learning about themselves does it help them understand others? And how in understanding others does that in turn help them understand themselves?
Wow, bringing the audience into that conversation, I've never thought about it that way.
We often talk about, particularly in theater, that once a show opens, you're adding an additional character to the play, right? And that character is the audience. They give you so much, and so we hope that they're growing through it as well.
So, Maureen, when we're talking about finding your voice, is there anything that comes to mind, maybe a moment in your time here at Kincaid, maybe in the musical arts side, where you had the opportunity to find your voice through a piece of art?
Well, when I listen to what Mr. Lambert just said, and when I think in general, in my experience, being a violinist has really gone hand in hand with being an actor. It's playing violin in front of an audience, you're giving a performance. And when he talks about finding your voice and playing your character into the piece, thinking about classical music and violinists, these pieces have been around for so many years, but it always sounds different with every new violinist on the stage. Um, Personally, as a growing violinist and someone who has been playing for 11 years, there's definitely a difference in my voice and in my character playing violin from even 2, 3 years ago to now. When I think back, one music festival I went to 3 years ago, it was at Oberlin, and I had worked on this one particular Bach sonata for solo violin. At that point, it was my very first piece that I played by Bach, and I was just figuring it out. I thought everything was pretty clear cut, and I had to follow exactly what was written on the page. It was quite boring now that I look back at it, but I revisited that piece this past summer at Tanglewood Music Institute, at Boston University, and I played the exact same piece, I revisited it, and with the new experience that I got in the past 3 years, I figured out some new phrases I wanted to put in, some new dynamics that weren't written on the page years and years ago when Bach first wrote it. It sounds like a completely different person, and it sounds like a completely different piece, but it's the same music on the paper from years and years ago, and I think that is so interesting about classical music and about being a violinist.
That's great. Z, could you take that maybe to the visual arts area? Does that resonate with you as well, finding a voice within a particular piece that you created?
Yeah, again, about honors. So each year you have to have a theme for all your pieces to kind of revolve around. And it has been really interesting and like inspiring to see how my own pieces and themes have changed. So, like, my first collection sophomore year was about fish because I really like fish. Um, but if like looking back on this exhibit, like the pieces were very like disjointed. They didn't really go together. They were just kind of like, oh, they're fish, yeah, but they're not like a exhibit. They're not pieces that go together. But as, I've grown as an artist and gotten more comfortable with my own art, my own style, and expressing myself through my art, I think my pieces have become way more inspired and way more personal than they used to be. Like, now, my honors theme is about, um, my experience with grief with my grandmother, um, and, like, doing visual arts is very vulnerable at sometimes, even though you don't always think about it like that. Paintings come from the heart and they come from emotions and your lived experience. And so putting all of that onto a canvas, onto a piece of paper, it's a hard process, but it's so rewarding because you get to share like the way you think and the way you view the world and your feelings with everyone else.
So, Scott, let's shift gears a little bit. We were talking before the podcast, and you gave us some background on this year's theme. I'd like you to share with our listeners, if you can, a little bit about breaking free.
Yeah, so every year we try to come up with a theme that we can um, sort of weave through everything that we're doing as much as possible. As we were choosing our season, and this really holds true mostly in the theatrical world, but as we were choosing the season, we were really looking for pieces that allow us to explore that idea of breaking free. You see it in Decision Height, which we did as our underground show. It was these women during World War II who were finding ways to break free from the constraints that society put on them. We see the people of Sleepy Hollow breaking free from all the constraints of that world. Our upper school musical this year is Once Upon a One More Time. It is Britney Spears music, interwoven through a new creative story about the fairy tale princesses that we've met through all of our journeys. And really the story there is Cinderella says to Prince Charming early on in the show, "Is this all there is to ever after?" And he responds and says, "Listen, you get paid to be pretty. I get paid to be charming. That's all there really is to this." And she looks at him and she says, "Wait a minute, you get paid?" And that starts the journey of our princesses understanding that the women in this fairy tale world are not treated the same way as men. And the entire play becomes, and the musical becomes, about these women breaking free from this traditional mold that fairy tales have told us are appropriate. Beyond that, the question is, well, how is breaking free found its way into the other art forms? And I think there's lots of ways to look at that. Whether it is an artist breaking free from stage fright, or it is the feeling the brush to try something bold, or it's letting words and music escape into the page and into the world. We're all trying to find ways to break free. And that's our theme for the year.
So, Maureen and Z, how does that resonate with you when you talk about this year's theme of breaking free?
I feel like for the most part, people for a very long time viewed me as very timid and like I just was not seen as the person I am now and the person I am inside. And throughout Kinkaid Arts, I've really been able to find people. Like I've my some of my best friends I met through Kinkaid Theater. They really helped me be comfortable with myself and be comfortable with people around me. But I think a lot of people outside of me and my like close friends could see that as well. I remember my mom got a call from Miss Spencer, I think, and she was like, "I see Z smiling so much." And that had just like not been a thing that like I think a lot of people just kind of saw me like passing by and not really do much, but you could see not only me blossom on stage, which I found a lot of voice and comfort and confidence through performing and showing people a part of myself that I don't typically show, but also just like being around people who see me and understand me made me feel so much more comfortable and just able to exist.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. That's just beautiful.
Um, I came to Kincaid in ninth grade, and even before Kincaid, though, I've always been an extroverted and social person. But strange enough, when I got here, I found it harder to, I guess, break out of my shell, like Z mentioned earlier. Especially in the world of theater, I was really intimidated by everyone, but after taking Theater 1 and auditioning for one acts, I think that's when I really started breaking free out of my shell and I became more comfortable with the community here. And I made a lot of really close personal connections, especially with the role that I played in one act. I was a squirrel in Adam Bear's one act called Nuts, and I just ran around the whole black box screaming acorn.
I was going to ask if you had lines, and
It was just the word acorn.
it was just the word "acorn." Okay.
Yes, and Adam just told me, "Be crazy and be funny," and I think that was one of the best moments I had on stage here at Kincaid. Ending off the year with Coffee House, I never imagined I would sing a song for the whole upper school, um, and I think that's when I really started getting comfortable in my own skin at a new school and really just having fun and doing the arts, what I love.
Right, Scott, before we wrap up, I'd love to step back and maybe look at the bigger legacy of the arts here at Kincaid. How have you seen the arts shape who these students become in college, in careers, and really in their everyday lives?
We are not necessarily training artists to become professional artists. We have people every year that go into BFA programs, apply to BFA programs. They become actors, they become artists, they become whatever it is they want to become and make a living doing that. But that's not really who we are training at Kincaid. We are really trying to use the arts and the skills that you learn in the arts in order to help propel you to be successful in the life beyond the Kincaid walls. We talked about collaboration, creativity, and problem solving. Those are three of the soft skills that people are talking that you need to have in the business world right now. Problem solving, we cannot do the arts without figuring out ways to problem solve. I like to joke sometimes that our job as artists is to get out of the box. Like talk about thinking outside of the box, but if you try to put an artist in the box, the first thing they're going to do is try to figure out how can I get out of that box? And it is about problem solving. We have to problem solve in everything we do.
So, the impact that the arts program has had on you, is there a personal moment that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yes. So I am a lifer at Kincaid, which means I've been here a very, very, very long time. um, but when I was in middle school, when I was in 8th grade, I was really considering if I should stay at Kincaid or not. I was not having the best time socially, and it would have been like a easy transition year to just start over, like maybe experience something new. During this time, I was really only going to school to do art. In middle school, you have lunch at like, you have to be in the cafeteria and you have to like sit with your grade. But every day at lunch, I would escape into my art teacher's classroom and she wouldn't report me, which I was very happy for. Thank you, Miss McMillan. But I would just paint and paint. And it was so comforting. And so at that point in time, I was really just going to school to do that or to play in the orchestra because I played violin for a while. around probably February, March, I went to see Carrie, the High School Musical that year. And it was truly just a life-changing show. Like, the story itself really resonated with me at the time, but when I watched it, I was just like, "Wow, I have to do that. I have to be in theater somehow." Like, I think that is when I kinda decided I wanted to stay at Kinkaid, because Kinkaid, you can do so many things. You can be a visual artist, you can do theater, and it all works in your schedule. You can, love biology and be great at biology, and you can you can do everything, and that is something that I just knew I needed. I knew I wanted to do theater. I knew I needed to do art, and I knew that the only way I could really do that without having to limit myself to either academics or visual arts or theater was to stay at Kincaid and really just let myself be engrossed in all of the different subjects.
Z, thanks for sharing a really personal story of how your journey here at Kincaid has shaped your life. So that will be a wrap for today. I want to say thank you to Mr. Scott Lambert for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Z and Maureen, oh my, thank you for not only joining us here, but thank you for representing Kincaid so beautifully in everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Perch will return again in 2 weeks with new conversations and stories about education, leadership, and community. Be sure to follow us on social media, check out Kincaid's website, and read the Falcon Flyer for more on how Kincaid supports our students and our community throughout the year. Thanks again for joining us on The Perch.